Welcome to Veiled Tales, where the truth is stranger than fiction. Please like and subscribe. The Green River Killer's Unsolved Crimes, a dark legacy of tragedy and mystery. In the early 1980s, the Pacific Northwest of the United States was gripped by terror as a sadistic serial killer prowled the streets, targeting young women engaged in sex work. The killer would go on to be known as the Green River Killer, named after the location where many of the victims' bodies were found. Over the years, the investigation into the murders would become one of the largest and most complex in American history, leaving behind a haunting legacy of unsolved crimes and unanswered questions. The story begins in 1982, when the body of 16-year-old Wendy Lee Caulfield was found near the Green River in King County, Washington. Little did law enforcement know that this would be the first of many tragic discoveries. As more bodies of young women turned up in the area, it became clear that a serial killer was on the loose, preying on vulnerable and marginalized individuals. The Green River Killer's modus operandi was horrifyingly consistent. He would pick up his victims, most of whom were involved in sex work, and strangle them to death. After committing these heinous acts, he callously disposed of their bodies in remote areas, making it difficult for law enforcement to identify them and link the cases together. As the body count continued to rise, fear and panic spread through the communities surrounding the Green River. Women were afraid to go out at night, and law enforcement struggled to identify any viable suspects. Despite their best efforts, the investigation seemed to be at a standstill, and the killer remained elusive. It wasn't until 1983 that investigators would catch a break. Gary Ridgway, a truck painter from Auburn, Washington, came under suspicion after he was seen with a known sex worker in the Green River area. He was arrested and subjected to intense questioning, but Ridgway was cunning and evasive. He denied any involvement in the murders, and without concrete evidence, the police were unable to keep him in custody. Over the next decade, the body count continued to rise, and the Green River Killer remained at large, taunting law enforcement and the public alike. His cunning and ability to elude capture earned him the nickname the nation's most prolific serial killer. In 2001, the case took a significant turn when advances in DNA technology led to the breakthrough that investigators had been waiting for. Gary Ridgway's DNA was linked to the crime scenes, providing irrefutable evidence of his involvement in the murders. In November 2003, he was finally arrested and charged with the murders of 48 women. In a shocking turn of events, Ridgway confessed to the murders and began cooperating with investigators. He led them to the remains of many of his victims, providing details about the crimes that only the killer could know. In a bid to avoid the death penalty, Ridgway struck a plea deal, confessing to 49 murders in exchange for a life sentence without the possibility of parole. While Ridgway's capture brought some closure to the families of the victims, the Green River Killer's case remains an unsolved mystery in many ways. Despite his confession and conviction, there are still questions left unanswered. Some believe that Ridgway may have committed even more murders than he admitted to, with some estimates suggesting that the actual number of his victims could be as high as 71. Additionally, the identities of some of the Green River Killer's victims remain unknown. Ridgway's meticulous disposal of their bodies in remote areas and his attempts to hide evidence made it challenging for investigators to identify all of his victims. Even with advances in DNA technology, there are still Jane Does whose identities have yet to be confirmed. Furthermore, some believe that there may have been an accomplice or copycat killer involved in some of the murders. Despite Ridgway's confession, there are aspects of the case that do not neatly fit into his narrative, leaving open the possibility that others were involved. The Green River Killer's unsolved crimes continue to haunt the families of the victims and the communities that were affected by his reign of terror. The case stands as a stark reminder of the challenges law enforcement faces in investigating serial killers, as well as the importance of vigilant investigation and the tireless pursuit of justice. While Gary Ridgway is behind bars and no longer a threat to society, the mysteries surrounding the Green River Killer's unsolved crimes endure. The true extent of his reign of terror may never be fully known, and the names and stories of some of his victims may remain forever lost in the dark waters of the Green River. Yet, as long as the memory of those who lost their lives is kept alive, the quest for answers and justice will continue, reminding us all of the importance of never forgetting the victims and the impact of the crimes that shook a nation. Thank you for joining us on this spine-tingling journey through the shadows. We hope that Veiled Tales has satisfied your hunger for true spooky stories and left you with a lingering sense of mystery. Remember, the veil of the unknown is ever present, so stay curious, stay vigilant, and never stop seeking the truth behind the tales. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.